Well, here we are at Traitor's Gate, probably the most famous, or shall I say infamous, gate in the world. This was built during the reign of King Edward I, as he required a safer and more useful entrance into the Tower of London. Rather than try and go through those narrow, crowded, twisted streets where convoys could be attacked, stores stolen and prisoners set free, he decided to use the River Thames as a highway, and he had a hole punched in the outer defensive wall so that at high tide boats could pass through the gates to unload their cargoes in safety. Therefore, this was originally called the Watergate. Yes, Americans. We had it here first. And as you can see, ours doesn't have any leaks.
Oh.
Don't know how long that joke can go on for. Now, the king realised he'd weakened the defences of his premier fortress, and he commanded that a tower be built above the gate to defend it. And this is named in honour of a former constable of the Tower of London, Sir Thomas à Becket. He was the Archbishop of Canterbury, who was murdered on the steps of Canterbury Cathedral in 1170 on the orders of Edward's great-grandfather, King Henry II. So, if, as I said, this was called the Watergate, how then did it suddenly become known as Traitor's Gate? Well, that was due to the large numbers of alleged traitors to pass through those grim gates during the Tudor period. Amongst them, no less than 4 queens of England: Queen Anne Boleyn, Queen Catherine Howard, Lady Jane Grey, the uncrowned Queen of 9 Days, and a young Princess Elizabeth Tudor. She was held in the tower up there on conspiracy charges against her sister Mary. She was later released and taken to Woodstock. She, of course, became Elizabeth I, one of the most successful monarchs we've ever had. Those and many more poor unfortunate souls would have travelled down from their trials at the Guildhall or the Palace of Westminster, passed through those gates and climbed these stony steps, and here they'd be met by a handsome yeoman warder, who looks remarkably like an inflatable version of William Shatner. Keep walking. He's the one who gives me all the jokes. If you want to boo him now, you can. Oh my goodness me, some ghosts. Now behind you can see the infamous Bloody Tower. It was originally called the Garden Tower, but its name was changed to the Tower of Blood, or the Bloody Tower, during the Elizabethan period to commemorate the many tragic events that have happened within. And of them all, surely the saddest must be the alleged murders in 1483 of the 2 boy princes.
Oh, yeah.
Edward V, the uncrowned king, and his younger brother Richard, Duke of York, aged just 12 and 9 respectively. Now, it is said that they were being looked after by their uncle, Richard, Duke of Gloucester. Well, he declared himself to be a king in July of that year. He became Richard III. And in August of that year, those boys were never seen again. Shakespeare tells us that men stole into those boys' bedroom on one hot, steamy evening in August 1483 and smothered them to death in their beds with their own pillows. Their little bodies were bundled down the steps leading into the Wakefield Tower and hidden beneath some stones. The next day, they were secretly taken to the south side of the White Tower, and that's where they were buried. They remained undisturbed for 191 years until workmen, carrying out some restoration work, removed an old stairwell, and then they found this trunk. Well, you see, there's a rumour going around the tower, still to this day, that there's some buried treasure buried somewhere in the grounds, and these men thought they found it. Possibly like the gross domestic product of Greece. Or even more. So they thought they found this trunk, so imagine how they felt as they swept away the dusty cobwebs. Imagine what they must have felt like as they smashed open the metal lock. And imagine their disgust when they lifted the lid and found the skeletal remains of 2 small boys. Experts of the day declared them to be indeed the missing princes, and they were taken to Westminster Abbey and reinterred there. Now, the man to spend some time up there was Sir Walter Raleigh. He spent 13.5 years up there on and off. 13.5 years. Do you know what? Every single day that he was here, they made his life an absolute misery. They locked his wife in there with him. You never take me out. Oh. Now, he was eventually executed on the orders of James I, primarily for sacking a Spanish colony, whilst looking for El Dorado, the fabled city of gold, up the Orinoco River. And when his head was cut off, his wife retrieved it and put it in a red velvet bag, and she carried it with her everywhere she went for the next 20 years. Sometime or other, people stopped inviting her around. What you got there? Anyway, so you're surrounded by a lot of history, folks, a lot of history. And if you're from the British Empire, all this history's yours. And if you're from America, been yours if only you paid your taxes. Go that way. We can fight them. Come on.